Shri V. Srinivas, CEO of Illumine Knowledge Resource, Mumbai. I request that it's a profound realization that knowledge in itself is merely a resource, whether in the form of books, data, or even as a recorded insight from those who knew. Knowledge, to be truly useful and valuable, must be living, alive in the hearts and minds of men and women who cope every day with the challenges from relentlessly transforming and demanding world. These are not my words. These are the findings of Shri V. Srinivas.
Good afternoon, since it's 12:15 now, and I'm really happy to be here and hope to share with you a few of my thoughts related to the subject of the role of a teacher. You see, I am not I'm not an educationist from the strict sense of the word, in that I don't work in any engineering or any other college, or I don't run an institution of that kind. But our work essentially, since it involves trying to build new models of education, and also we share these models. For example, every engineering college in Gujarat, for example, goes through a program that we have designed for building contributors in society. So we've ended up working with several thousand teachers across the country. This experience with working with all these teachers all over, and also obviously the conversations that we've had with them, etc. I think the idea of a lamp is quite clear to you, because this whole idea of the self, the idea of the divinity of man, all this represents in a sense the lamp. And when we use the word the teacher as a lamplighter, obviously we are referring to our role in invoking that highest in each of the individuals we are working with in our class. Can play one of two roles. Each of us can either think of ourselves, it's left to us. Each of us can think of ourselves as an education provider, which is our institutional role. I am a teacher in some college, or I am a professor somewhere, principal somewhere. So I have an institutional role, which is that of an education provider. Or I could see myself as a lamplighter, which is really a freely chosen role. As an institutional role, you are paid for it, you better do it. You have to reach college on time, you have to attend that many lectures, that many classes, complete the curriculum, all that is part of the institutional role. But your role as a lamplighter of students is a choice that you have to make. It's a choice that each one of us has to make. And therein lies the story. Because in our role as an education provider, these three criteria, at least I know, is common to all of us. We all have to cover the curricula which is supposed to give, that we are supposed to finish. We are all supposed to help students perform well in the exams. If our students don't do badly, if our students do badly, you will agree with me that we are not playing our role even as education providers. So they have to do well in their exams. We have to do what it takes to help them do well. And we have to inculcate what is called institutional and social discipline, an ability to function well in society, function well with the rules of society, understand how society works. All these are the roles that we play in our role as education providers. So far so good. This is really what we are all supposed to do, and I suppose that we all do it also. Okay? The question that comes is that in our role as lamplighters, people who are awakening or invoking something higher in the students, in our role as people who are trying to help people connect to the vastness of their potential within, we have many other roles to play. One is, for example, we are supposed to invoke discovery in the classroom. What does that mean? Invoking discovery is different from pouring knowledge into people's heads. If I stand in front of the class on the board and rattle out some concepts and give some concepts out, that is just giving information. There is no discovery from the student. The student is not connecting with the subject matter in any way. That student is not finding out for himself or herself what is being said. So one of the roles as a lamplighter, as a person who is supposed to awaken the students in the class, is to actually help every student make an attempt from within to reach out to that subject. So it is, first of all, let us recognize this one difference. One is to tell, and one is to awaken or invoke discovery in the other person. Telling means I am giving you, you are receiving it, take it for what it is worth. Invoking discovery means I am making it interest, keeping it open, giving it a space and saying, please come forward. That means we are asking the student to come forward, step forward and dip their hand into that, into whatever you are offering and say, take for yourself. So you see, already from being an education provider to a lamplighter, there's already one big shift as a teacher. From supplying information, I have to invoke a interest and a discovery in the subject in front of me. That itself is a tough problem, but it's to be done if I want to be a lamplighter. Number two, I have to promote creative engagement in the class. What does this word creative engagement means? It means that I could theoretically take any subject, whether it is physics, chemistry, English, it doesn't matter what that subject is, rattle out the curriculum and say this is what you need to do. Or I could force the students or demand, not force is not the right word, demand out of the students that they step up and think about the subject, argue about it, enter into that subject, try to ask questions or try to think for themselves and maybe come out with new projects, new approaches, etc. All that is likely to result in creative involvement with the subject. That means the student has to now step out of the boundaries. Again, now if you notice, this is all about the student. Third one is, you have to demand what is called inner integrity and excellence from the students. What is inner integrity? Inner integrity, social discipline is very clear. I have to do it because people are forcing me to do it. One simple example is if there is a traffic light. If in the night you are going there and the traffic light says red, if it is only social discipline that I have to follow, then if there is no policeman around, then I will simply cross. But if there is a policeman around, I will stop. So social discipline means if somebody else is telling me, then I will do it. I have to be obedient because someone else is telling me, while inner integrity is saying that I have to work, I have to do it because I think it's the right thing to do. If something is left there, if nobody is watching and I pick it up, that means that is only there is no inner integrity or there is no inner truthfulness with respect to this one. While I am a thief in my heart, though I may not be thief in practice, as long as someone is there. So inner integrity is all about the individual coming out. So now let us see the first thing that we are saying. We are saying that I have to make a choice between being an education provider and being a lamplighter. If you ask me, from morning, every person who has come on the stage has been asking this question again and again. Right from the morning, that are you going to be only a lamplighter? Are you going to be only an education provider, or do you want to be a lamplighter? And let us be very, very clear, to be a lamplighter is hard work. Because as an education provider, it is quite easy to go to the class, rattle out what one has to say, complete the curriculum, complete the subject matter and finish it off. While if I have to promote creative engagement in the class, that means there is going to be argument, discussion, involvement in the class. It means discovery means I have to take the trouble of making the subject interesting, invoking their interest in them, giving them projects, evaluating the projects. So many new things I have to do. All these things is hard work. It means more involvement, more energy from each one of us. Do you agree with me? So the point is that we all tacitly, I don't think any of us here does not recognize this choice between being alive. I have given it a name, but I think that choice is there in every one of us already knows that this choice exists. I don't think I am saying anything new here. That we can either be an education provider or we can be a lamplighter. And you will agree with me that millions or at least hundreds of thousands of teachers in the country are choosing only to be education providers and are refusing to be lamplighters. Would you agree with me on that? Why are they not making that choice? What is the thing that can be done so that we make the choice? Why are we not choosing to be lamplighters? This is the profound question to be asked. But before we try to go deeper and try to also answer that question of how we can become, why or how we should become lamplighters or what is it that may motivate us, let us also try to establish the impact of our actions. What happens if you are an education provider? As education provider, this is what we produce. We produce sheep. Every one college has 5,000 students, another college has 15,000 students. If you have 15,000 of these sheep coming out, is that a contribution? I want to ask you. And each one of those sheep is asking only 3 questions. Do I have a well-paying job? Do I have a nice lifestyle? Will I have a good position? 3 questions are being asked by thousands of sheep. This is actually what we are producing. So this is the right hand side of our product. If we are education providers, this is what we are producing. Each one of us who has chosen to be an education provider. We are producing people who are degree chasing. We are creating a narrow set of skills which are actually related to some job or not any job most of the time. Fitting also into fixed roles and also highly transactional relationship with knowledge, which is what Swamiji said right at the beginning, that transactional relationship with knowledge. First thing, I just deal with the knowledge as a marks getting tool. It has no relationship to me as a person. If the teacher is an education provider or a supplier, why shouldn't the student be an education buyer, you tell me? Is it not fair on both sides? Yes or no? If one person acts like a supplier, other person will act like a buyer. So this is the outcome, this is the external outcome of if we are acting as education providers. If we act as lamplighters, this is what we will intend to produce. We are trying to produce lions. Look at what each of the lions is thinking. One of them is thinking about the nation. That's a lion, not only well-paying job. Someone who's thinking about dedicating his or her life for the larger welfare of a country. Somebody is thinking of trying to have scientific breakthroughs. Somebody is thinking of trying to actually be a lamplighter like you. Somebody has said, my teacher was so extraordinary and I was so impressed by him or her that even I want to be like her. Somebody else wants to actually create new institutions, build something in our society. All kinds of possibilities are there which are there in their minds. These are the lions which we can create. If a college tells me that I am producing 3,000 lions, I think that I would leave Bombay and just join that college first of all. Because then we are really talking about something, correct or no? This is what we are aiming for. And who are these lions? These are lions who are seeking purpose in life. Which is what Maharaj was saying, Swami Shantatma Ji. He is saying they need dynamic skills. People who can dynamically respond to life. People who are prepared for dealing with life in all its complexity. People who also have a different relationship with knowledge, who are able to see knowledge is a deep, flow within them, which is actually transforming their lives in every possible way. All this is possible. If we choose to be lamplighters, we can create students like this. First of all, let us recognize, before we look at ourselves, which I will come to in the second half, let us look at the consequences of producing sheep instead of producing lion. When we are producing sheep in large numbers, what are we creating as a nation? The same sheep go and sit in a government office, and they are the same people who do not sign papers and who say chalta hai for everything. You only face the consequences of the same sheep who you sent out. They are the same people who are sitting in various places and not actually trying to do their jobs in those places. It is these sheep who are actually creating the environment in which we ourselves are complaining. Don't you agree with me? We go out and complain, the trains don't work, this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. So why government can't do it? What is the government made of? It is made of the same sheep, I say. Same sheep whom we produce are coming back and supplying us back what we supplied them. So you see, the consequences of creating sheep are very deep for our society, and the consequences for creating lions is also very different, because I suspect that lions will be more grateful to you also. Lions will acknowledge you till the rest of their life because they value people who have created them. The lions are the people who are likely to go and make your name proud. They are likely to be people who are going to make such an impact in the world that you will be able to say that this person was my student. And this is a person, individual, a person who created such students out of his or her class. The impact of a lamplighter is huge in society. And the consequences of a lamplighter are all around, of creating sheep are all around us, of education providers are all around us. Keeping this background in mind, let us now ask ourselves the next set of questions. What should we do? Should we make that choice? What is stopping us from making that choice between being a lamplighter, from moving from education providers to lamplighters? This is the next part of it, choosing to be a lamplighter. Please understand one thing. It's very difficult for any system to fire an education provider. So actually, as an education provider, you can be dead sure that you have a comfortable life ahead of you. You have absolutely no problem. Next 25 years also nobody can touch you, because that's all that they are paying you for. So the choice of being a lamplighter is entirely your choice. It's a free choice made by a free human being, made because that person believes that that person wants to live higher than the ordinary. If you believe that you want to live higher than the ordinary, you want to live as something, you want to live an ideal instead of simply leading an ordinary life, then this life of a lamplighter is for you. So that choice is entirely within us. Nobody can force us. So in this making this free choice, what are our enablers? So the only thing I can provide you for the next 20-25 minutes is some enablers for helping you make that choice. So right now what we are going to discuss is what are the enablers available for you to make the choice of being a lamplighter in your life. The first thing that you need to ask yourself in order to be a choice, this is the 3 questions we'll answer. Why should I invest in being a lamplighter? How should I teach differently? And number 3, what metrics and measures should I use for myself as a lamplighter? Well, these 3 questions you have to answer if you have to be a lamplighter. Why should I be a lamplighter? How should I be a lamplighter? And how should I measure myself? If I can answer all these 3 questions, from tomorrow you can be a lamplighter. So let us ask ourselves, what does it take to be a lamplighter? The first question of being a lamplighter. The only reason other than the fact that there's a huge social impact of your actions, the only other reason why you should be a lamplighter is because you benefit. Because there's a profound benefit for you. And here is a simple tool for helping you do that. You know, this is a tool that we first tried out in, in one of the country's largest banks. And this tool was used for more than 200,000 people. As bankers, they used it to find out, why should I be a citizen banker? Why can't I just be an ordinary banker not caring about customers? And we found it's a very simple tool. You know, this tool says that there are two kinds of fruits that you get. There are what are called outer fruits that you can see in the world. What are the outer fruits that we see? Salary, promotions, awards. These are the fruits that you get in the world around you, that you can see. And there is a second kind of fruit that you get, which are the fruits which are inner fruits. For example, you ask a mother how many outer fruits she gets. They get all inner fruits. That's why a mother does how much she does for her children. She does it for inner fruits. Do you agree with me? They do it for their family. A father may work day and night for their children in so many ways. They don't do it for outer fruits. They may get, they may not get. But they definitely get inner fruits. So many of the wonderful things that you do in your life, you do because you get inner fruits. So let me ask you a question. What are the fruits you get as an education provider? If I were to ask you, what do you think would be the answer? Would some of you like to answer? What are the fruits as an education provider, not as a lamplighter? What fruits will you get? Any people, very loudly? What fruits do we get as an education provider? Yes, please. What peace of mind for being as a teacher? No, that all you get as an education provider. Just going and completing the curriculum in the class. What do you get? You get, for guests completing the curriculum, going to the class, presenting and coming back, what do you get? Salary, exactly. You may get, if you do slightly better job, you may even get an award for it, correct or no? Right? So this is what you get, and definitely you will get promotions from time to time if you wait long enough, correct? So if we wait long enough, we get promotions, we'll get salary, we'll get this, exactly. So this is what we get. And actually nowadays with, with some of the many colleges, they also have a fairly comfortable lifestyle. If you look at the bulk of the country, actually teachers have a fairly comfortable lifestyle also. So this is what we get. Awards, promotions, monetary rewards. This is what you get if you are an education provider. Now just 8 hours a day you will work for this and this is what you will do. The other option that you have is to be a lamplighter. As a lamplighter, what all will you get? Now I'd like all those answers. Yes, please. Peace of mind, satisfaction. What else? Pride. Very good. What else? Only 3 things. Obviously, you haven't been thinking hard enough about what all benefits you get. Huh? What do you mean sound sleep? You'll get sound sleep even if you just went and taught students, I say. I don't think that's so much of a problem. In fact, your sleep may be lost a little. You'll have to think of how to make them understand. What else? Yeah, a lot of affection and lot of faith and trust from the students. Okay, great. What else? Yes, please. The success of the students, you get a sense of pride. Very good. Yes, and all this is together is job satisfaction. But you get a lot more, right, in a day than simply that. So, in addition to the salary that you get, in addition to all these awards that you get, this is what you get. Just see how many more things you get. You become a role model for the students. You are remembered by the students, people whose lives you've impacted, which is true. Because I can tell you that, and thanks to WhatsApp, we have our school group. And there are two people whom we have not met each other for last 30 years. And many of you must be on similar school group. Many of them remember the teachers who have impacted their lives fondly even after 30, 40 years of, passing out. They are respect and regard from the students. They get a sense of fulfillment, a sense of oneness with the students. They get the joy of serving others. Increased confidence because their own subject matter confidence increased joy of excellence and the kind of work that you do. Why, in fact, if you take it far enough, you might even become president of the country like a teacher like Radhakrishnan. But even if you don't go that far, you can get to a long distance with all this. So if I reverse the point, if I am not a lamplighter, I am missing out on all this. All I get is a day full of cribbing, crying, and unhappiness. On the other hand, I get a day full of joy, fulfillment, and a life that is worth remembering. This is the first choice that you have to make as to why I should become. So I would like to make it very clear that to be a lamplighter is entirely your choice. There is a national impact of your choice, but there is also a personal impact of your choice. Both these impacts are something worth thinking about. All these I have put down on the board, but you know, if you really think about it, it will take you several weeks and months of thinking before you arrive at this yourself. Because this is one thing is telling, another thing is discovery. When you discover all these truths yourself, you will agree that all these are extraordinarily valuable. So this is the first very important shift that we need to ask ourselves, that we need to make, that why question of being a lamplighter has to be clarified. Clarify the ideal, clarify your choice. And after you have done that comes the next thing, which is that we are saying, when you might come to the question of how should I teach differently. Okay, even if I say that I want to be a lamplighter, how should I go to the class and teach differently? Now if I have to teach in the class differently, one is the worst, really the worst form of teaching is rote learning, where all you go is to put something on the board and ask students to memorize and come to the class. Because really you're treating students like a dustbin, and you're really just putting this material into the students' heads and, you know, or into some kind of a drawer into which you're dumping material, and the student is also waiting to remove all that material and throw it away after the exam is over. So that is the case where you are really talking about rote learning. It's truly the worst form of teaching, the worst form of teachers, and the worst form of students. So obviously none of us wants to be there. You'll agree with me, right? And even if some of us is there, we want to get out of that place. So that's not where you need to be. The second level where you might go to is to say that I want to help students in the acquisition of concepts. Now, what is acquisition of concepts? I help people understand a question. Have you seen how teachers say, have you understood this? Understood means what? I am able to understand and repeat meaningfully in an exam. The first is where I cannot repeat even meaningfully. I have to just repeat verbatim. In the second case, repeating meaningfully. But repeating meaningfully still doesn't mean understanding or assimilation of the idea. For example, just because I have understood a physics concept doesn't mean that I have understood how to translate physics into my life. It doesn't show me that I can actually have a scientific temper in the way I do things in the way I approach life. It doesn't mean all that, correct? It still is at a second level where it means that I have understood the concepts and I can do well in the exams in a proper sense. So truly speaking, if I want to be a lamplighter, I have to go beyond teaching concepts and I have to get students to assimilate ideas and get into the involvement with those ideas. Now this requires that we have to assimilate ideas ourselves. For us to assimilate the ideas, it means that I have to allow discussion. It means I have to allow the possibility of being wrong. It means that I have to allow the possibility of exploring the subject and actually using the internet in a way which says that the information all the students will get, my job in the class is really to discuss ideas and to go beyond ideas to see how those ideas impact my life. All this means that now suddenly your job has moved from being a routine job of going to the college and teaching to becoming a creative, dynamic job full of engagement and involvement on a day-to-day basis. It is challenging, but the challenge will actually awaken you and make you feel fully charged up at the end of the day. So this is the possibility when I teach differently. So that is really the direction we are going. And then the last step that we are talking about in this whole thing is, correct? This is one mode of teaching. Acquisition of concepts. What does it lead to? It leads to intellectual growth without development of heart and hands. This is the kind of students we'll end up producing. Many of our top institutes, by the way, and I happen to be from two of them, and I can tell you many of my classmates are all like this. They've got large heads, full of ideas, they can intellectually understand any subject, but their hearts are shrunk and shriveled up because they don't care a damn for their fellow men. They're only interested in their personal development and their growth. This is the assimilation of ideas means this. And this is what Swami Shantatmanji was also telling you about. He says your role is that of an enabler. You are actually nurturing the student, and the student is going deep within and actually absorbing the nutrients from within and then the student is also climbing up to all the opportunities in the world, seeing the entire thing, and the fruits of life are coming from that student. So this is the kind of students that we are producing, and this is the kind of teachers we are talking about. The lamplighter is also a gardener, because that teacher is actually trying to nourish the students and help them grow in this way. And when this kind of a role is played, then the students who come out are people who are stable like this. They have deep roots in our culture, in our society, in their value systems automatically. Because that's the kind of thinking that you have brought into them automatically. Values are not necessarily always, they may be taught separately, but essentially values are awakened. And when values are awakened, they are awakened in a process through all classes. So every teacher is an awakener of values. And every teacher can awaken values when the teacher is directing themselves to actually this kind of an harmonious development in the student. In fact, a teacher put it beautifully to me one day. She said, "Sir, let me tell you what you are saying in in a short line." So I asked, how will you summarize it? She says, what you are saying is that normally we want to knock them on the head. Knock them on the head, they are actually, whatever they know is also forgotten. Is that what you are saying? I thought that it was a very good summary of what we were trying to describe, but this is really what it is. Now once you are clear about this, here is a small checklist that I want to now have you think about. This checklist says that these are the measures that you have to look at. I recommend that you take down this checklist and put your own grades for it. First of all, these are your output measures, these are your personal measures. There are two kinds of measures, output and what is happening to myself. You will agree with me? We said earlier, your output should not be sheep, they should be lion. Correct? So what are your outputs here? Are your students making growth and excellence choices? Are your students choosing chalta hai? Are your students choosing only routine choices because they have no confidence in themselves? Or are they making choices which are going to move them towards growth and excellence? If they are making such choices, you are a lamplighter. Number two, are your students developing the capacity to respond to life? Do they feel diffident? Do they feel unsure of themselves? Do they feel unsure that whether they can face life? Do they shrink into a shell the minute they face any difficulty? In which case, you know that as a teacher, you have only been an education provider. But if you find that your students are engaging with life, getting involved in life a little, they are responding to life, you know that you are building this capacity to respond. Number three, are your students awakening to new possibilities within themselves? Do they think that I have these abilities within myself? Let me try this out. Let me try something more and beyond just the simple 4 jobs that are available in front of us. Can I step out of the ordinary, step out of the box? Just because I am sitting in Mangalore doesn't mean that Mangalore is my beginning and end. Can the whole world be my oyster? That kind of thinking, if your students have, then you are awakening self-esteem and awakening them to new possibilities. Reflection on your own without anybody there and ask how many of these you are ticking mark. Next, personal measures. Are you feeling fulfilled and excited about your work, or do you feel it's one more day of drudgery? If you are feeling it is one more day of drudgery, be sure you are an education provider. But if you are actually living a life full of fulfillment and joy, please know for sure that this is more exciting than any other profession in the world, because you are actually working with that most complex of mechanism called human being on the most noble of ideas which is awakening the highest in them, then there cannot be something more exciting than that in life. If you're still feeling bored, it means you're an education provider. You are just a functionary in the wheel of life, in the society. Otherwise, you are a lamplighter and a change maker in society. Number 2, are you growing in your subject month to month, year to year? Are you repeating the same ideas again and again, or are you growing? If you are growing, then you are a lamplighter. If you are not growing, you are an education provider. That means you are repeating yourself. And last is, are you a role model to your students, or the students avoid you and cross to the other side of the road when they see you? If that is happening, then be sure you are just an education provider. They are not interested in engaging further. If on the other hand they are crossing the road and doing it and actually making an effort to come to you, it means that you are a lamplighter. So these three questions on this side, 6 questions are there for you. Please consider them and use them as a checklist for yourself. If with this checklist you will know whether you are a lamplighter or an education provider. With that tree of fulfillment, you could make out how much of the actual full joy you can get and how much of it you are getting. Before that, you could see what you are producing. These are, in summary, what I think is something we need to think about if we want to look at our life as teachers, lamplighter or education provider. Are we clear? I've got, I think, 5 minutes left or 10 minutes left. Any questions?
Which is offered to our school students, because many a times the students feel that there are a lot of things which are redundant and they have to just memorize things. Like maybe history, they learn a lot of dates, and why there's no change happening in the curricular system, students still feel the burden of studying, because these things are really good, but we are not doing any effort in improving the curriculum of our students.
Okay.
So if you
The question that you are asking is that should an information oriented education system continue? The answer is no. If I have a mobile from which I can press and get from Google, I can get anything. And with a Jio, I can make sure that almost any person in the country can get it. Obviously, information is no longer the currency from the point of view of teaching. Do you agree with me? Why should anybody come to you if he can get it in Google, right? So he has to come to you because he has to get something more than Google. So one thing is very, very clear. If any teacher wastes, I'm using the word, the class time providing information, then that is definitely not correct. That is your first question that you have asked. My opinion is clear. No information in the class. The class has to be for understanding and awakening. First step, understanding. Second step, assimilation. If the classroom is used for assimilating ideas, then that is the right purpose of the classroom. Okay, that's your first question. Your second point to the second question was that shouldn't somebody be changing the curriculum? The answer now is a very tricky point. Curriculum has 2 aspects to it. What is to be taught and how it has to be taught. The curriculum only tells you what is to be taught, but how it is to be taught is in our hands. Do we see that? So, even if they give me a curriculum which is what is to be taught, how it is to be taught. So, 50% of the game is in a teacher's hand. I think that this is constantly forgotten in the education system. That actually they never prescribe how it is to be taught. They may give some guidance and all that. They only teach what is to be taught. In fact, their exams that are there, they are also informational in nature. Do you agree with me? So a lot of those stuff can be actually taught in half the time, but the rest of the time can be used to go deeper so that even that much gets covered. Please appreciate this point that how it has to be taught is entirely in your hands. And great teachers are not determined necessarily by what they teach alone, but how they teach. I'll give you a reverse example. In our school, when I was in 5th standard or 6th standard, we had a very new teacher who was asked to join the school. I remember her even today for the wrong reasons at one level. She was a very famous person because she was actually a physicist who joined the school because she had come back from abroad and she wanted to teach. So she would come to class and she would start teaching ideas which were so difficult for us. She would start explaining things that were all advanced. And everyone is, she's a PhD and all that, and she's the most highly qualified teacher in the school. So what? We didn't get anything. Correct or no? So the important thing is not the curriculum, the important thing is how it is taught. Because if you really look at it, no curriculum, even I see, no curriculum is going to tell you awaken the students, right? So that is sitting inside every classroom. It is sitting inside every curriculum, it is sitting, because it's a depth dimension. Curriculum only covers the scope dimension of life. The depth dimension of teaching is covered by the teacher. I hope I have explained these points. Yes? So I think that in a sense, I've tried to answer the last two questions together, but the whole idea of teaching has to be seen from is actually the role of the teacher is unmitigated. So please, even though curriculum should be changed, which is the third point, we need not wait for it. Correct? That's my point. Yes, please.
Is ideologically great.
Okay.
Can we make it more pragmatic? Because every individual, every parent want mark, especially till the completion of pre-university, everybody is bothered about their ranking and get admission to the professional college.
I have something to say, and
Yes.
I'm going to say a lot more of it tomorrow, but I want to say it now. I guarantee that in 5 years from now, this will not be true. I guarantee. Because the entire work life, the entire work and education system, the work system is changing so radically. Do you know that today, you agree with me, 800 engineering colleges have closed. Why have they closed? Because people realize that please see my point. What I am saying is practical, but not from today's scenario, but in 5 years from now, those colleges who don't deliver like this will be forced to rethink their future. From now, you want to bring about organic change. If you don't want to bring about organic change starting today, in 5 years from now, inorganically you will have to change. Because whether you take an Infosys, I am telling you, we work with TCS, we are working with some of the top companies in the country on the same issues. So on one side I am working with education, on the other side we are working with the top companies. You know what is their problem? Their problem is saying our mantra has to be value creation. We don't want this process thinking. Because our clients are asking for value creation. Do you know that foreign clients, for example, they are cutting the fees to a TCS and Infosys? Why do you think there is so much chaos going on in Infosys? What is the problem? The real problem is 20-year-old model, 20-year-old business model, which was very straightforward. Take from engineering colleges, people who are all rote learners, take them, give them simple coding jobs, make them do the coding jobs and charge, in rupee rates for dollars and collect and deliver to foreign companies. That will not work. Because those people are saying, I want to get value addition from your students, and the employees of these companies are unable to give value addition. And where will they turn to finally? They'll say, I am not getting value addition. They will say, which college is giving me value addition? Let me go there first. Why I should invest so much money in training for those students if the college is not giving value addition? Yes or no? So you take it for given. Do you know that the BPO industry is going to lose 30% of its jobs in the next few years? 30%. And this is, I'm being conservative. All this you may not see in the newspaper, but you can see it in the fact that there is so much chaos between management. Why should a new CEO and an old founder fight so much in a public space? Because there are some deep economic causes for it. There is a question of how to deal with this new world. And this new world will come to bear on all people's jobs here. I'm sorry I'm being tough about it, but I'm very, very clear. 5 years from now, there will be that many more colleges that will shut down because they cannot deliver students who can respond to challenges. So I'm clear that, yes.
I'm very much fresher to a field of lecturing, and I'm into a commerce field, wherein the strength of the class is somewhere around 85 to 90 students. And how can we think upon the awakenment or the growth of an individual student with respect to the completion of the portion within the syllabus?
Okay. Classes. If they do, you're already a good teacher, I say. Okay, but assuming they do, which I am very happy with, which is that, see, the point which is there is that today how many people are there in this class, in this room? More than 80 or Have I answered your question or not? Thanks. Yeah? Please, yeah.
One more.
Yeah.
So you said a lot of things related to teaching, but I would like to know, as you all know that, especially in Mangalore or Mangalore University, there is a lot of social science, humanities, languages are in a risk or in a crisis. So which measure you would like to give to rebirth the language or humanities or social science?
Okay, all these are the trends of the last 25, 30 years. But that is changing dramatically. I'll give you an example. If you take my own company, for example, we have at least 8 to 9 IITians and IIM, that kind of graduates. But we also have anthropologists, sociologists, psychologists. Why? Because people are recognizing that you need a multidisciplinary approach to things. If you look at your students, today what is happening is they assume that a BA means that education is completely worthless. That idea is there in the principal, in the parent, in the student, in all stakeholders of the system. That idea has to be questioned first of all. In my view, the entire social sciences are going to become as powerful and as equally important as engineering in the next 20 years. And that the reason for that is because the world is becoming a very, very different place, which is becoming far more complex, which is there. People are looking for these kinds of answers. For example, artificial intelligence looks like an engineering subject, but so much of it also has to do with cognitive sciences, and so much of it also has to do with psychology, and so on and so forth. So many of the new professions and fields which are sweeping the earth, sweeping the planet, are all based on multidisciplinary thinking. So please don't actually have that assumption that social sciences are actually a backwaters which have to be given no importance. On the contrary, they are going to become, their renaissance and their resurgence is going to be seen in the next 15-20 years. I think, and I want to close with this, I think we should stop looking at the past as a guide for our future. I think that the future is going to be a very, very different place, and as as educationists, as teachers, as lamplighters, as professionals here, I think it is very important for all of us to start looking and trying to see the future. It is really going to be very, very different from what you have seen in the past, and it's going to have very different demands from what you have seen in the past, and it's going to be an exciting world to enter into. Thank you very much.